Okay, Edwin, thank you so much for joining us here today. So I think just to start off, maybe you could share a little bit of information about yourself, what you do, and about Huawei as well.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Natalie. My name is Edwin Diender. I am Chief Innovation Officer in our Electric Power Digitalization Business Unit. In this role, I support our customers and our partners with their digital journey, and in this case, specifically the digital journey of the energy industry.
Okay. And, I've been reading up a little bit about Huawei, and I noticed that you talk a lot about energy neutrality. Could you define what this means specifically?
Generally speaking, what it means is that the amount of energy that needs to go into a production or a manufacturing process or to achieve a certain outcome is usually more than the amount of energy that it takes to get it out of it. So energy neutrality means that there is a balance between the amount of energy that goes in, the amount of energy that a device maybe needs or consumes in the lifespan of a certain device. For example, a mobile phone, to produce and manufacture a mobile phone, it requires a certain amount of energy. The life cycle of a mobile phone is maybe 10 years, and taking that device out of the market as well also brings back some energy. So the balance between these two is what energy neutrality is about. The amount of energy that goes in is equal or maybe negative perhaps towards the amount of energy that it takes to take it back out of the market again. And we're driving different initiatives to see if we can do that much more efficiently than in the past. So we try to see if we are able to reduce our energy consumption to produce more of the equipment that is needed in the market.
Right. And as far as energy neutrality goes, it's a big part of the energy transition and with decarbonization efforts. So where do you think all this fits in currently for the ASEAN region?
If you think of energy transition as a general journey of transformation, because there are so many organizational transformations, there are so many services transitions, there are so many business changes, and so on and so forth. So everything you could say is a journey, a transitional or a transformational journey. Energy transition is a part of a change to move away from fossil fuel towards renewable energy sources and new energy sources. So that is the transition of the energy source. There's also a transition when it comes to the awareness of that, which is an awareness transformation. We as a society have to become and have to be energy aware, because with that awareness you can tap into your lifestyle perhaps, and you can embrace a greener lifestyle, or a lifestyle where your energy provider or your electricity provider becomes a partner in a greener living standard or a greener living environment. And that changes again, that transitions again, or that transforms again the way we look at things and the way we embrace things and the way we are in the middle of things. So energy transition is not just about energy itself or electricity as a specific component. It is a bigger picture, I would say. And if you look at the Asia region or Asia Pacific or ASEAN, which is a bit larger, just like any stage in a transformational change, many different organizations or many different industries are either ahead of the game versus others who are a bit behind or who are following. And that also goes for the ASEAN region. If you look into details, there are certain countries that are on a certain part a little further ahead of the game than on the same part another country in the same region would be. So it's not that easy to say how and where is what country leading, because you need to be specific into what. But generally speaking, you could say that the Asian region, the ASEAN region, is having an ability and an opportunity to move faster than other regions. And that's because the awareness is already very high up. The investments and the opportunities that the industry and that the Asian region has embarked on is already put in place. And NLIT Asia, as an awareness creation and as a promotional agency, so to speak, to boost that further, is doing a great job. So this is an applauding to your organization in driving this, because I think your organization started here before it went to other regions with the same concept of NLIT, and that means you're driving the region further and faster.
I see. Thank you very much for that.
One moment.
Okay, so moving on. I mean, we've talked about the energy transition and energy neutrality. Well, digitalization also plays a very big part in this particular journey, if you will. So tell me about where you think certain challenges and opportunities may lie, and Is Huawei doing anything about this?
Well, that's a couple of components in one question, so let's break that down in specific sections. Energy, and specifically electric power and the electricity industry, is a very physical industry. There's not much digital, so to speak. So by nature, they are a non-digital native industry. There is another industry, which is the industry where computing and communication and mobile enablement sits. That's a very fast industry. Some of the players in that industry started from digital, has nothing physical at all. And that creates a gap. In the world of computing and in the world of communications, or in the world of World Wide Web of computing and World Wide Web of communication, if you think of transitions and changes and speed of process, and one innovation on top of the other, on top of the other, is a very fast industry. And that creates an even wider gap. So one of the first things that we try to do is we try to bridge this gap. We try to see whether there is a leverage between the world of digital and the world of physical, and to see if we can bring that together and to shorten that gap. That goes with knowledge exchange, that goes with training and certification, that goes with the equivalent of an ICT academy towards an energy academy. So that form of creation, so to speak, to leverage and to bridge this knowledge gap is an example. Another example is where digitization and the informatization of the power grid can take place in a digital platform first. So in order to understand for the electric power industry or a power plant to do investments in expansions or in growth or in additions and modifications, normally speaking, this would be a physical process. And out of that comes a budget, and the budget is able to purchase equipment that creates a construction, physically speaking, of a larger area or an upgrade or a migration, so to speak. In the world of digital, you could say and you could debate, is that the best effort? Is that the best way forward? What would be a better way of an investment? What would be a stronger growth and modification to an existing physical power plant? A digital platform is very capable of answering those questions with visualizations like 3D modeling and simulations, and taking into concern a whole lot of factors that maybe co-determine how and what to do in the physical world of expansion. So a very practical example could be, what is the not only economic, but what is the urban and social impact to society or to a certain environment, or maybe a nature area where the idea is we need to expand a power plant with so many square kilometers, for example. In a digital platform, it can be determined very well and very fast and very inclusive. What would be the best way for this investment? How then physically to do that in the most optimized way with the lowest carbon footprint possible. So that's another example of how and where digital is able to support and create the value from a digital point of view before moving into something physical. And that brings me then to the third point. The third point is, once you have embarked on this digital journey and once you have put these systems and services in place, you are able to move higher up the value chain in a much shorter time frame. Because from digital, you can start with digital first. And that's a very common principle in organizations and industries working in the World Wide Web of computing and communication. And that creates a learning point with methodologies and frameworks and programs and initiatives that you can replicate from the world of digital to the world of physical.
I see. And we've actually had a few conversations as well where, people have been talking about for the grid, having a more interconnected grid. Do you think on the digital side of things, we might see something similar where we have a very interconnected digital market that perhaps links up everybody across the board?
Well, that actually already exists. We are here in Indonesia, Jakarta to be specific. In Jakarta is the head office of PLN. PLN is the largest energy and electricity generator in this region, and certainly for Jakarta, for Indonesia itself. They have a mobile application, an application that runs on a tablet or a mobile phone. In that application, there is many features and functionalities that creates awareness, but it also allows PLN to promote and create certain awareness components and campaigns, so to speak, with regards to energy consumption. PLN is also embarking on a digital journey. That means that from this application and from your consumer partnership with your PLN electricity provider, you are able to get your home broadband, for example. To PLN, that's a completely new market, which is digitized. For a consumer, it sits in your application. there is a little feature in your mobile application that you can click, and it opens up a certain, well, interface, so to speak, that allows you to check your mobile broadband consumption or your home broadband consumption. But if you don't have it, you're able to slide your finger on the screen that goes from left where you don't have it to the right that says activated. And by doing so, automatically in the back end, there is something activated that allows PLN to invoice you for your home broadband, but it allows you as a home user or as a mobile phone and application user to use this application for your energy management and awareness, but also for your connectivity, your reach ability, and the way how energy and information is captured and combined together. I think that's a very good example of how these two worlds already are blended and how the value of digital is sitting on top of value creation for something very physical.
Right. And this kind of comes into broadening that horizon, so to speak. So would you say that this is basically describing the Internet of Energy?
I would say it does. In the past, well, not in the past, actually already today, there is the idea and the concept that the informatization and digitization of the power grid, the conventional and traditional power grid, transforms to what they call a smart grid. And that sounds like, and it is still positioned as if that is what you have to reach.
Yep.
And it also comes along with the thought, perhaps, that you could say, once you've reached it, well, then you're there.
What else? Right?
And I would say it's not. I would say smart grid is not what you need to reach. I would say smart grid is something like a stage that you need to pass through for something that's beyond. And beyond, of course, is something that is higher up the value chain, something that is closer to your aspiration, that reaches, your ambition as you move on in transforming your power grid. So maybe it's a better way to say that if we transform the traditional power grid via smart grid, and by adding mobility and intelligent energy and intelligent digital connectivity, you are moving beyond smart grid and you are entering into a space that has the opportunity to become the equivalent to the World Wide Web of computing and the World Wide Web of communication, which you could consider is the energy internet or a World Wide Web of energy, or what I call the energyverse. And the energyverse has a lot of capabilities very similar to how information today, application driven via tablets and smartphones and that sort of thing, for information already runs and works in the world of mobility and your smartphone and your tablet. So think of the World Wide Web of energy as an equivalent or in analogy to a World Wide Web of computing and a World Wide Web of communication. In the World Wide Web of computing and in the World Wide Web of communication, information is available at the touch of your hand. In a World Wide Web of energy, energy is available at the touch of your hand. And with a slide of your finger across the screen, maybe you are able to create a gift certificate for one of your family members. And you can give them, via this application on your smartphone, so many kilowatt of hours for their birthday or an anniversary. In the World Wide Web of energy, this is a very possible opportunity because it exists in the World Wide Web of computing and in the World Wide Web of communication. Physically speaking, this is not possible. That's not how electricity works. But in the world of digital, we can make it work. And the world of physical is then following when it comes to the payment. If this is what I would do in a gift card for my dad, for example, who turns 80 next year, then the only thing that the systems and the partnerships that need to understand is that I will be the one who will be paying the electricity bill of my dad on May 17, 2024, when he turns 80. That's a transaction component. That's not an electricity component, but the World Wide Web of energy can enable that.
So that's about making it more accessible, more consumable, if you will.
And more inclusive, more transparent, and more in analogy, as I mentioned earlier, to the World Wide Web of computing and the World Wide Web of communications. Our organization, my organization that I represent, has a very strong footprint in transforming a traditional copper cable, which is more than 100 years old and that in the past carried the analog telephone calls. And that copper cable has a partner. The other copper cable is the electricity network. It's also about 100 years old, follows the same route, goes into the same buildings, touches the same homes. That copper cable, which is the former telephone network, has transformed in what today is the World Wide Web of computing and the World Wide Web of communication. And my organization, as many others as well, have been the driving forces behind that transformation. So if you then think about the analogy of data management, data storage, data analytics, data mobility versus energy management, energy storage, energy mobility, energy analytics. These parallels are very apparent. The only thing we need to do is we need to come to understand the concept that the bit is very capable of driving the watt. And that's a program that we have in place as well. So digitization and informatization of the power grid, the physical transformation of the power grid is well driven and well supported by digital initiatives.
Right, so besides this, I actually want to move on to a bit of exciting news that we've seen at Enlit Asia. So recently, Huawei actually just unveiled a new joint innovation center, if I'm getting that right.
That's
Maybe
correct,
tell me a bit more about that.
The idea of an innovation center speaks for itself. It's a center where innovation is at the core of its existence, and the intent is to not only embrace innovation, but also to innovate further and to bring that further to the world. There are no partner. There is no single organization that all does it by itself. The world exists with partnerships and collaborations. The world of digital is even stronger when it comes to partnerships and when it comes to collaboration. So when we are creating a joint innovation center, it not only tries to bring bright brains to create innovation or to innovate, it also brings organizations together that maybe by nature don't have a strong link together, but via such an innovation center, where maybe the eye of innovation can also be an integration center, which is a technical component, but maybe also a partnership kind of component. You're integrating different forms and different partners to jointly integrate their bright brains and jointly integrate their innovations to jointly create a joint innovation, which is not only technical driven or technology driven, but it's also organizational driven, and it's certainly business or industry driven. And that last part is what the objective is of the Joint Innovation Center that we've jointly created, and for which we are looking out to not only existing partners to come on board and to be part of this, but also new partners. Partners that maybe look for an integration and innovation center but don't really know where to get it, or their existing innovation center only goes that far, and it would be great if it had another feature or if it had another dimension, so to speak. So we're very open to embrace new partnerships in this as well.
Right. This is breaching into slightly new territory here. This is slightly rarefied air, if you will.
Well, innovation centers are not that new, but if you think of an innovation center where digital and physical, where the World Wide Web of computing and the World Wide Web of communication, and maybe the future World Wide Web of energy is able to come together, and maybe from a future thought process point of view could start, create itself, then that might be a very interesting aspiration for this joint business and industry innovation center. And we're very excited to be part of this.
Thank you very much for sharing that with me. I think that about wraps up the interview.